shall surely be put to death. And the children of Israel grieved for Benjamin their brother, and said, One tribe is cut off from Israel today. What shall we do for wives for those who remain, seeing we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them our daughters as wives? And they said, What one is there from the tribes of Israel who did not come up to Mizpah to the Lord? And in fact, no one had come to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. For when the people were counted, indeed, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead was there. So the congregation sent out there 12,000 of their most valiant men, and commanded them, saying, Go and strike the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, including the women and children.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Ortel, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the April 30th issue of the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The first article, Susan Ladd named Chief of Rochester Schools. Superintendent Dr. Eric J. Rosser has announced the appointment of Susan Ladd as Chief of Schools. She officially began her duties on March 30th. Ms. Ladd brings more than 3 decades of experience in education, including over 20 years of leadership in the Rochester City School District. She currently serves as principal of Henry Hudson School Number 28, where she has led a diverse school community of approximately 600 students, including specialized programs in bilingual education and autism support. During her tenure, she has strengthened instructional practice, fostered a safe and inclusive learning environment, and successfully guided the school through a complex grow-out process, including managing swing space relocation while ensuring continuity of instruction and school operations. Ms. Ladd has also contributed to district-wide leadership through her service on the Superintendent's Principal Cabinet, the Curriculum Council, and the Executive Council for the Association of Supervisors and Administrators of Rochester. An article from the front page of the Challenger. Reimagine Buffalo's East Side for the people living there. Is recent call to build hundreds of new affordable housing units really a call to intensify racialized, profit-making gentrification of Buffalo's East Side? Build Communities for the Low to Moderate Income People Already Living in Those Neighborhoods by Henry Louis Taylor, Jr. A recent call to build hundreds of new affordable housing units on Buffalo's more than 7,000 publicly owned vacant lots is not a solution. It is a call to intensify the racialized, profit-making gentrification of Buffalo's East Side. Under the current market-driven system of neighborhood development, new housing, especially owner-occupied housing, is always built for the upwardly mobile and middle class. Developers do not build for low to moderate income groups. They build for those who can pay market rates, with a small number of below-market units included only to unlock subsidies and tax credits. This is how the racialized, profit-making system of neighborhood development works. On Buffalo's East Side, this means one thing. Publicly owned land, one of the last remaining collective assets in Black neighborhoods, will be transferred from public ownership into private ownership and incorporated into the profit-centered housing market to generate profits and wealth at the expense of Black Buffalo. In Buffalo and across the nation, this type of neighborhood development has led to a decline in the Black share of major city populations. Everywhere, Blacks are being displaced from central cities, with the most significant losses in Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, New Orleans, and New York City. This type of neighborhood development places profits over people. It resets land values, raises property taxes, and reorganizes the neighborhood life and culture around a new class of residents, mostly white and mostly middle class. This is the predictable outcome when neighborhood development is driven by efforts to increase population, bolster the tax base, and make communities desirable for the upwardly mobile white population. The alternative is to reimagine and rebuild neighborhoods for the actually existing population in those communities, turning places of arrested development into healthy, prosperous, and joyful communities. That is the goal of the Upper Broadway Fillmore Neighborhood Transformation Project. Resist racialized profit-making gentrification on Buffalo's East Side. Life is good. Council confirms Shields by a slim vote as first woman to lead the Buffalo Police Department. The Common Council on Tuesday confirmed Erica Shields by a slim margin in a 5-4 vote to lead the Buffalo Police Department. She is the first woman, an openly gay person, to hold that position in the city's history to do so. Her first day was May 4th. Voting in favor of confirming Ms. Shields were council members Rashid Wyatt, David Rivera, a former police officer, Mitchell Nowakowski, Joel Ferroletto, and Brian Ballman. Casting no votes were council members Zanetta Everhart, Leah Halton Pope, Joseph Golombek, and Christopher Scanlon. Council President pro tempore Everhart, who in a previous council meeting said she was intimidated to get a yes vote from her, restated that she would not be intimidated. She voted no. And also cited conversations with community advocates in Atlanta and Louisville, which helped in her decision. Halton Pope, like Everhart, said her decision was based on her research and calls from constituents and residents outside the city familiar with Shields' tenure in Atlanta and Louisville. She told BTPM NPR, "I want to support another woman, but we don't get in positions, and we don't just support people because they're women. We don't get in positions and support them because of ethnicity. We get into positions and we support individuals because they're the best for the position. And while I do have some serious concerns about the salary and where funding is purportedly coming from, my biggest concern is what's in the best interest of the residents that I serve." Wyatt said he, like other members of the council, also had concerns about the $250,000 salary, which was increased from $174,000, but that her experience in leading large departments and her focus on technology and training convinced him to support her confirmation. He said Buffalo needs her expertise. Mayor Ryan picked Shields in April after a 4-month nationwide search. Another article that was mentioned on the front page is on page 8, Entertainment. Will Holton presents Queens United, a celebration of the power, talent, and legacy of women in music. Buffalo saxophonist, producer, and concert curator Will Holton proudly presents the return of Queens United, a powerful, all-woman music showcase honoring the extraordinary talent of female artists across Western New York. Taking place Saturday, May 9th at the Kaz, 2221 Seneca Street, the evening promises an unforgettable celebration of artistry, unity, and musical excellence. This highly anticipated event marks the second edition of Queens United, reviving a concert concept Holton first presented in 2017, featuring legendary regional artists Dee Paris, Trina Jameson, Juanita Simmons Duncan, Mutha Soul, Nikki Hicks, and Buffalo's best kept secret, Christy Smothers. After stepping away from the show for years, Holton says the time felt right to bring it back. I felt like there was a void that needed to be filled, said Holton. We have so many incredible women artists in the region, and they deserve a stage where their talent can shine. Queens United is about honoring the artistry and celebrating the power of women in music. The 2026 edition of Queens United brings together an electrifying lineup representing a wide spectrum of musical talents from R&B to Latin and soul, showcasing the depth of talent throughout the region. Featured artists include Camira Lattimore, Ali Critelli, Lisa Santiago, Pancakes, Amina the Empress, and Deanne DeMeo. Each artist brings their own unique voice, energy, and musical identity to the stage, making this concert a dynamic celebration of creativity, culture, and empowerment. Another article I'd like to read is mentioned on the front page, and this is in the section called Voices on page 11 of the newspaper. Juneteenth Board Members Planning for Youth This Year by Betty Jean Grant. Hey community, we know that many of you had or still have some concerns and comments regarding the behavior of some of our youth once the big opening Juneteenth parade is over. In hindsight, there may not have been enough activities to engage the kids, especially those in their preteens or older who would assemble in the areas west of the wading pool. Since there were very little vending or the selling of merchandise going on in that area, teens got restless and disruption often followed. This writer has heard that some of these Juneteenth festival fights are even organized and planned in some schools and other places months before we have our historic and world-famous Juneteenth festival. The fact is, our Buffalo Juneteenth Festival and Parade is either the largest or the second largest festival behind Galveston, Texas, in the United States. The current Juneteenth Board of Directors and some of the original founders of the organization, such as Luther Burnett, Eugene Pierce, Roosevelt Wardlaw, Judson Price, Doug Ruffin Jr., Enid Wright, and Marcus Brown are working hard to make the Juneteenth Parade and Festival an enjoyable and educational holiday for all of Buffalo and Western New York. In order for us to do this, we board members decided to solicit younger persons with a history of volunteerism and community engagement and public service to apply for the vacant positions. The call for new members was put out and answered by a great group of younger activists that included Patrick Cray, Nichelle Brown, Kelly Dumas, Annette King, Shola Clark, Michael T.A. Smith, Franchelle Parker, and Crystal Peacock. This energetic group of proud Juneteenth supporters are busy planning activities that will help attract our young men and women and provide positive alternatives such as the Youth Ambassadors Initiative and the Youth Empowerment Zone. The Youth Ambassadors encourage youth participation in festival planning, leadership, and civic engagement. The Youth Empowerment Zone aims to offer a safe, fun space for youth where they can also connect with resources in education, workforce development, entrepreneurship, and mental wellness. Families are encouraged to come out and be a part of this experience. And this year, the Malik and Malika Juneteenth King and Queen returns. The Juneteenth celebration began in 1865, the year slavery was officially abolished in the state of Texas. It took the Union soldiers from January 1st, 1865 to January 19th of that same year to let the formerly enslaved people from Africa know what they were now free. And while I am on this subject, the City of Buffalo Juneteenth Festival is celebrating its 50th anniversary by hosting a fantastic Juneteenth 50th Anniversary Gala at the Classic 5 Banquet and Conference Center, 2425 Niagara Falls Boulevard, Amherst, New York, on June 5th, 2026. We hope to see you there. You are listening to an articles and features from the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Another article that I would like to share with you that was mentioned on the front page. This is in the category of Health Matters from page 6. Evergreen CAS announced new health center to open on the east side. Evergreen Health and its affiliate, Community Access Services, hosted a community meeting recently to share key updates on the new 36,000 square foot comprehensive healthcare center opening this summer at 3070 Bailey at the corner of Kensington Avenue. The meeting provided information about services that will be available in the underserved community, which suffers from a lack of equitable health care from doctors to pharmacies. The new 3-story facility will offer primary care, pharmacy, behavioral health, testing, education, gynecological services, care coordination, and focus on chronic illness such as diabetes, hypertension, HIV, and obesity. Financial counseling and a food distribution center will also be available. Evergreen also announced its partnership with the Buffalo AKG Public Art Initiative to work with local artist Bree Gilliam for an amazing large-scale mural on the exterior of the new location. The exterior of the healthcare center has been shaped by community feedback at a variety of neighborhood events and ongoing engagement with local stakeholders, advisors, and staff, and will feature new CAS branding that celebrates and empowers the community. We're proud to partner with the community to ensure our shared values and goals are reflected in the new healthcare center, from services that will be offered to the exterior mural, said Kim Brown, Executive Director of CAS. CAS empowers Buffalo's communities of color through connections to culturally rooted healthcare, resources, and social services. And we're excited to launch this new brand to connect and communicate with the communities we serve more intentionally and effectively. Companion article with the Evergreen announcement is about the mural that was done by Bree Gilliam. When Evergreen announced the new comprehensive East Side Health Center set to open this summer, it included the partnership with the Buffalo AKG Art Museum for a mural on the new location by local artist Bree Gilliam. A figurative painter from Buffalo, artist Bree is the owner and founder of Paintforia, Buffalo's first paint-throwing studio. In her work, she addresses the social issues that plague society. As a young Black woman, she believes that her responsibility is to depict the perspective of marginalized people, give a voice to the voiceless, and empower her community. I am incredibly honored to be a part of this project with Evergreen Health and the Buffalo AKG, said Bree. My motto is art is power, and this mural has the power to inspire hope, joy, and a sense of connection for our community. This mural symbolizes hope, resilience, and generational joy. It portrays a woman and child standing in a field of flowers, looking up towards a vibrant horizon. The field of blooming yellow daffodils symbolizes hope, renewal, and growth. The mural encourages the surrounding community to look forward to a bright future and strengthen multi-generational connections. The emerging artist has been progressively making her mark. In 2023, Bree was selected as an artist in residence at Hunt Art Gallery. Her work has been featured in several exhibitions around Western New York, including a solo exhibition, Inspired, at Box Gallery and Buffalo Arts Studio, Hall Walls Contemporary Arts Centers Amid in Western New York, 2024, and Birchfield Penny Art Center's Sharing Our View, 25th anniversary. She has been commissioned to paint several murals in the Western New York area. Recently, she assisted in the creation of a mural with the Buffalo AKG and Fat Off Art on the Jesse E. Nash Medical Center. In 2023, the Niagara Falls National Heritage Area chose her to paint her mural entitled Free Your Mind. Bree has received more than 10 academic awards and scholarships during her time at Buffalo State. These include the Dean's Award for Excellence in the School of the Arts and Sciences. From the beginning, this project has been shaped by the voices of the community, said Ray Gano, President and CEO of Evergreen Health. Citing Bree's inspirational mural, he said, "This building is about more than healthcare. It's about creating a welcoming, inclusive space that reflects and serves the community." Another article from the Voices section. A bullet in the heart of the voting rights movement. Sharpton condemns Supreme Court's decision to gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, says 6-3 ruling humiliates the legacy of Dr. King, Jr., and dismantles decades of hard-won civil rights progress. Reverend Al Sharpton, founder and president of National Action Network, NAN, issued the following statement in response to the United States Supreme Court 6-3 ruling weakening Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the cornerstone provision of the landmark civil rights legislation signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson. The ruling in Louisiana versus Calais narrows how courts may interpret and enforce Section 2, making it significantly harder to bring discrimination claims against electoral maps, diminishing the voting power of communities of color. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act has been a legal tool protecting Black voters and voters of color from discriminatory redistricting for 6 decades. The conservative majority on the Supreme Court has been systematically dismantling the Voting Rights Act since 2013, when it eliminated the pre-clearance requirement that once forced states with histories of discrimination to get their voting maps approved by the Department of Justice before taking effect. Today's ruling does not eliminate Section 2 entirely, but as Justice Elena Kagan wrote in her dissent, it renders the provision all but a dead letter. States including Texas, Florida, Mississippi, and others are already positioned to move swiftly to redraw congressional and state legislative maps that had previously been blocked or challenged under Section 2. The redistricting arms race that has defined recent election cycles will now be conducted with far less legal accountability, and Black voters, Latino voters, and communities of color across the country will bear the cost. Today's decision is a bullet in the heart of the voting rights movement, said Reverend Al Sharpton. The Supreme Court has not just weakened a law, it has humiliated and dismantled the life's work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and every man and woman who marched, bled, and died for Black Americans to have an equal voice at the ballot box. Dr. King did not march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge so that 6 justices in Washington could quietly undo what was paid for in blood. This court has been chipping away at the Voting Rights Act for over a decade, and today they drove the knife deeper. But let me be clear, the movement does not die with this ruling. We will fight in the streets, in the courts, and in the halls of Congress until the right to vote is fully protected for every American. NAN is calling on Congress to act immediately to restore and expand the Voting Rights Act through federal legislation. Reverend Sharpton will convene civil rights leaders, legal advocates, and elected officials in the coming weeks to build a coordinated legislative and legal response. This ruling does not just dishonor the generation that marched, it steals from the generation that hasn't voted yet. Black children growing up in this country deserve the same protections their grandparents bled for. The National Action Network will not allow a court to be the final word on their future. Quote, "A president is impeachable if he attempts to subvert the Constitution. If the impeachment provision in the Constitution of the United States will not reach the offenses charged here, then perhaps the 18th century Constitution should be abandoned to a 20th century paper shredder. Has the president committed offenses and planned and directed and acquiesced in a course of conduct which the Constitution will not tolerate? That's the question. We know that. We know the question. We should now forthwith proceed to answer the question. It is reason and not passion which must guide our deliberations, guide our debate, and guide our decision." That quote was from July 24th, 1974, by Congresswoman Barbara Jordan's speech to the House Judiciary Committee regarding the impeachment of President Richard Nixon. The remarks are often cited as one of the great examples of American political oratory. Nixon was impeached. Plant sale and free giveaway. Fair Share Western New York and Groundwork Market Garden will host their 6th annual plant sale and giveaway on Saturday, May 9th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at their farm located at 52 Leslie Street on Buffalo's East Side. The free, family-friendly event welcomes the community for a day of organic plants, local vendors, food, music, and children's activities, all centered around increasing access to fresh, healthy food. As part of the giveaway, each household will receive 2 free vegetable plants while supplies last, helping families grow their own food at home. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from April 30th issue of the Challenger Community News. We read from the Challenger Community News every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Elizabeth Ortel. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of the Batavia Daily News. Following that at 10 o'clock is the East Aurora Advertiser, and at 11 we have the Niagara Gazette. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our volunteer radio readers broadcast daily readings of printed matter to our listeners who are blind or have a print disability throughout Western New York and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service has brought nearly 40 years and more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Patricia, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the May issues of the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, starting with the Friday, May 1st issue of the Batavia Daily News. From the front page, a new constellation, Leroy volunteers recreating Great Star Flag for America's 250th by Saul Hauser. It'll have 13 stripes and 13 stars, but the flag that will be marched down Main Street at this summer's Oatka Festival parade won't look like any American